lacking, how much we are lacking in the knowledge and even the base to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. You know, the commentaries and even what Prabhupada takes from those commentaries, actually it's such a deep discussion. We are hardly able to sometimes get some very little information of what is actually there in the verses. Still, when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, read Srimad Bhagavatam, we are quite enthusiastic to also share it with others. We feel very happy to share it with others, right? So somebody may feel, is it proper? You know, we only don't understand Bhagavatam in depth and we are so much trying to share it with others. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the 14th chapter of 10th Canto, the Brahmaji's prayers, Brahmastuti, he, in the beginning of that chapter, recites a very nice prayer, which is composed by him. And he says, Mama Ratna Vanik Bhavam Ratnani Aparichinvatah Hasantu Santo Jihremi Naswasvanta Vinodakrit. So this is from Brahmastuti, 14th chapter, and Srimad Bhagavatam, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. This is one of the verse. So he says that I feel so inspired after reading Bhagavatam to share these jewels of this Srimad Bhagavatam. And Ratnani Aparichinvataha. Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that I don't know value of these Ratnas because I am not a very great jeweler. I am not a very expert jeweler. So I don't understand the value of these Siddhanta Ratnas or Rasa Ratnas, the jewels of Siddhanta or Rasa. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, actually, he's saying out of humility, it's not that Vishwanath Chakravarti doesn't understand what is the value of these jewels. He very much understands. Acharyas like him are known as Sarvatantra Swatantra. That's the phrase for them. Sarvatantra Swatantra. What does it mean? Actually, they are so learned in all the aspects of knowledge that this grammar and this, Nirukta, that is the vocabulary of Sanskrit, and Chanda, and Shiksha, and all such branches of knowledge, they are so well versed, acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti, that they can use them as toys in their hands. These knowledge streams are like toys in their hands, actually, and they can use it in Lord's service the way they want. So this is known as Sarvatantra Swatantra. He is independent user of all the tantras of Shastra. So Jiva Goswami or Vishwanath, they are like that. But he is saying out of humility that actually I don't know the value of this great Ratnas of Srimad Bhagavatam. I only barely understand them. But still he says, I am very enthusiastic to share this Ratnas, because he says, I just can't resist. There is so much of joy in sharing this philosophical truths of Bhagavatam that I just can't resist it. And Hasanto Santo, he says, I don't understand its value. Still, I am trying to sell it. I'm trying to share it. So the great devotees, they will laugh at me. The scholarly devotees, Vidwan Bhaktas, they will laugh at me. They will say, hey, what is this? He is trying to share the jewels, but he himself doesn't understand its value. But he says, Hasantu Santa, let them laugh, no problem. Jihvemi na, I am not going to desist from this effort because Swaswanta Vinodakrit. Because actually, sharing this knowledge of Bhagavatam is giving me so much joy inside my heart. It is flooding my heart with the joy. So I see so much of joy I am getting in sharing this knowledge. So let the devotees laugh. Let the Vidwan devotees, scholarly devotees laugh. But I am feeling happy, so I am going to share it. And in fact, it's like, even if they laugh, thereby, I am giving some pleasure to them. I am causing them laugh, so that way I am pleasing them. He's saying, I don't mind sharing this knowledge of Bhagavatam, even if it makes them laugh by that way. It's okay. I'm happy that they are getting to laugh because of me. I'm a joker in front of them, actually. So, that's what is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's amazing attitude when he's sharing such ratnas, such jewels like he has given in Sararth Darshini, you know. So actually this mode applies to all our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada and all our previous acharyas. They, on one side, they have a great appreciation of Bhagavatam and they feel that they have barely scratched the surface of Srimad Bhagavatam. But on the other side, they are also very enthusiastic to share it, how much ever they have understood, by Guru Sadhu Shastra. So this actually should be our mood also. We don't claim that when we are sharing tikas or when we are sharing Prabhupada's purports understanding that we are actually sharing something very great or we understand it very well. That's not the mood. But whatever we understand, we are very happy to share uh, based on whatever we have heard from Guru Sadhu Shastra. Fine. So that is the right mood with which we can share. So some of you who are very learned, and if you feel some of the points which I am sharing are, you may want to add to it or like that or correct it, please feel free to do so. I just also am trying to share whatever I have understood from a little bit from commentaries and Prabhupada's purports. Okay. So coming to Srimad Bhagavatam, we have seen till now we have seen chapters, 9 chapters are over. So if you see Srimad Bhagavatam's first canto, uh, if you see in terms of question answers, conversations, so chapters 1 to 3, they actually discuss about the 6 questions that were asked by Naimisharanya sages and the answers given by Sut Goswami. So that's the topic between chapter 1 to 3. Then in chapter 4, the Shaunaka and the sages, they asked a lot of questions in the beginning to Suta Goswami. And actually those questions form the basis of entire first canto, the remaining first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Like suppose if you see the 4th chapter of this first canto, so in that after glorifying Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vara Kadham Bhagavatim Punya Yadaha Bhagavan Chuka. So after that, the Shaunak and the sages, they start asking the questions. So they ask one question which is about Kasmin Yuge Pravrutteyam Sthane Vakena Hetuna Kuta Sanchodita Krishna Kritavan Samhitam Muni. They ask a question that how this Bhagavatam was, it came about. Why did Vyasdev compile this great scripture called as Bhagavatam? So how was Bhagavatam compiled? How did it come about? Origin of Bhagavatam. So that's asked in this question. And this is answered in chapters starting from chapter 4 up to chapter 7. And especially up to that verse, Atma Ramascha Manayo Nirgantha Pyurukrame Purvantya Hetu Kim Bhakti Mitham Bhutguno Harihi. So this talks about the setting of Bhagavatam, how Vyasdev was dissatisfied and how he wrote Bhagavatam on the instruction of Narad Muni. First, he had written a small summary kind of Bhagavatam, and Narad Muni instructed him, and then he expanded, revised it, and came out with 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam as we have it. So that's asked in chapter 4. That was one of the questions, and that becomes the basis for answers between chapters 4 to 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then after this, from chapter 7 to verse 12 onwards, there is another discussion that begins. The focus shifts to events after the Kurukshetra war, right? So this is also again based upon the question that is asked in the 4th chapter. In the same section, if you go below, there is a question which is in the verse 6th of 4th chapter. Katham alakshitaha paure sampraptah kuru jangala unmatta moka jadavat vicharan gajasah vayu. It's asking about how was Shukdev Goswami received in Hastinapur. And how was that? Kasyava Pandave Yasya Rajarshe Munina Sah Samvadah Samabhuttat Yatresha Satvati Shruti. So it was asked that how this samvad between Shukdev and Parikshit took place. How did they meet? So actually that's the topic. I mean, this particular question is answered in 18th and 19th of this particular canto. 18th and 19th talk about how Parikshit got the curse, and then how Shukdev Goswami appeared on the scene. So how their discussion took place? How did they meet each other? Why did they meet each other? This question was asked, and this was answered. This is answered in 18th and 19th. Okay. So 4 to 7 answer Bhagavatam's coming out. 18 and 19 answer about how Shukdev and Parikshit met. In between, yes, that is also again based upon chapter 4's question, in which the sages are asking, karmani cha granihi cha, right? Janma and karma of Parikshit, they are asking. So Janma and karma of Parikshit is also asked in the same section. And what section we are currently studying is actually dealing with that particular question. In order to describe Parikshit's Janma and activities, what Sud Goswami does is he describes events leading up to the birth of Parikshit and events leading up to the enthronement of Parikshit. So, chapter 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, they are describing the events that lead up to the birth of Parikshit, which is chapter 12. So, this is actually talking about answer. This is about the answer to the question which the sages have asked about. Please tell us Parikshit's birth and activities. So from 7 to 11, it's a prelude to Parikshit's birth. And then 12th discusses Parikshit's birth, and 13th onwards, 13th, 14th, and 15th is actually a prelude to Parikshit's enthronement. So from chapter 7 all the way up to chapter 17, actually, it's discussing about Parikshit's birth and Parikshit's activities. Because 16th and 17th are Parikshit's activities, his punishing the Kali and his enthronement and all that. So in this manner, we see that one of the questions from chapter 4 is again answered in this entire section of Parikshit's birth and activities. And finally, fourth question asked in 4th chapter is about Sasamrat Kasyava Heto Panduna Manavardhana Prayopavishto Gangayam Anadritya Dhirat Shriyam. What was that he had to give up such a great kingdom, and he gave up everything. Parikshit gave up everything and sat on the bank of Ganges, disregarding his whole kingdom, right? Namanti yatpadaniketamātmanah shivaya hani dhanani shatrava katham savira shriyamanga dostyajam yuveshatot srashtu mahosaha subhi. Actually, such a great king like him, who is doing so much of welfare of all the people, how is that he became ready to give up his kingdom and just, was ready to give up all his lives sitting at the bank of Ganges? So this is again the topic between 18th and 19th. So those are the 4 questions which are cardinal questions for the entire development of first canto, and they are all there in the 4th chapter actually. So that's how the relevance is there. That's the context in which we are studying. And coming to this particular chapter, if you see 7th chapter onwards, when the Akhyana changes to events after Kurukshetra war. So we see that after Kurukshetra war was over, Krishna was actually ready to depart, but then the episode of Ashwatthama killing all the sons of Draupadi happened, and we see that that's where Arjuna decides to capture Ashwatthama, and then the whole episode of capturing Ashwatthama and Draupadi, being merciful towards him, and then they release him, and all that happens. So Krishna wanted to go back. Actually, Krishna, Mahabharata explains, Krishna always used to come back, travel between Dwarka and Hastinapur often. You know. So he would often travel between Dwarka and Hastinapur. So Krishna wanted to go back after the Kurukshetra war, but then this particular episode kept him there. And so he stayed. He also consoled Draupadi and other, relatives who had lost their near and dear ones in Kurukshetra war. After this, he wanted to leave, but then again, what happened is he was sitting on chariot to leave for Dwarka. Then Uttara came running. This is in chapter 8. Uttara came running saying, Pahi Pahi Mahayogin Deva Deva Jagatpate. That please, O Krishna, save me. I see that a great fire is trying to, is approaching towards me and trying to burn my embryo. So Krishna understands that this is again the Ashwatthama. He has sent this Brahmastra. This was second time he sent. Once he sent before when Arjuna was trying to capture him. Again he sent, and this time he sent, in fact, that one Brahmastra split into, you can say, six different forms, six different arrows, sharas, and it had simultaneously attacked 5 Pandavas and also the embryo of Uttara, Parikshit, who was in the womb of Mother Uttara. So Krishna, he had to protect, because if it was just one Brahmastra, it was fine. Arjuna would have managed, but it was now 5 different astras at 5 Pandavas and also one at Uttara's Garbha. So Krishna just, although he had taken a vow that he is not going to lift up the weapon, he still, by his Sudarshana, he nullified all the Brahmastras that were directed at Pandavas and also entered Uttara's Garbha and protected Parikshit from actually, in fact, Parikshit was already burnt by that Brahmastra. He brought him back to life. So this episode again, was there, and Krishna had to stay back. And seeing this whole incident, Kunti Maharani prayed, such wonderful prayers she offered that actually, Krishna wanted to leave, but Kunti Devi offered such wonderful prayers. It is said at the end of those prayers, very beautiful. Prathayetham kalapadai parinuta khilodaya mandam jahasa vaikuntho mohayan ivamayaya. Very beautiful. Sud Goswami says that actually such kalapadai, such beautiful words, Kunti Maharani glorified Krishna. Parinuta khilodaya, all Krishna's glory was just had arisen in those prayers. Mandam jahasa vaikuntho. Krishna was so overwhelmed by those prayers, actually. It is said there, mohayan eva mayaya. Maya se mano mohit ho gaye. So what is that Maya? Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, Maya, one meaning is, bewilderment. Maya can mean knowledge. Maya can mean ignorance. Maya has so many meanings, actually. Maya Vayune, Maya Jnanam, Maya Brahmaha. But here the meaning is, Krishna was so much bewildered by the love of Kunti. Such beautiful prayers she sang that, Krishna got bewildered by those prayers. My God, Buaji had so much love for me. he felt that Kunti has such love for me. So it bewildered. Actually, it's not easy to bewilder Krishna by one's love. Krishna doesn't get bewildered like that. But such love she had, such kalapadai, such beautiful choice poetry, that it bewildered Krishna. And then Krishna said to her, Badham, Badham is fine, okay, it's fine, thank you. He said to Kunti, and he was planning to go, but then Yudhishthir Maharaj stopped him. Yudhishthir Maharaj stopped him from going. And Krishna cannot reject Yudhishthir's plea. Actually, Krishna has so much love for Yudhishthir, and he's such a noble soul, such a virtuous soul, such a great devotee of Lord. Premna Nivaritah Radnya. Krishna was stopped by, Yudhishthir, and then he just decided that he will stay for some more months like that. Of course, he also had surely the desire to give his darshan to Bhishma, who was planning to leave his body. once Uttarayan begins. And also he wanted Bhishma to instruct uh, our Yudhishthira Maharaj. So that's why he stayed back, and he had Yudhishthira receive instructions from Bhishma Dev, and that is how we see that Yudhishthira was pacified by taking instructions from Bhishma and also by Lord Krishna, like that. So after this, now Krishna is determined. He wants to go back to Dwaraka. There are his beloveds even in Dwaraka. Okay, so that's where we are actually. So this chapter 10, Krishna is going to be successful in leaving Hastinapur. So that's Krishna's farewell is there in this particular chapter. And Krishna's reception in Dwarka is there in the next chapter 11. So actually these chapters are dealing with farewell and reception. Amazing actually. Krishna's farewell is one full chapter, how he departed. And then again, his reception at Dwarka also, it's a full chapter in that way. Sometimes Bhagavatam speaks in a way that it moves so fast that in one or two verses, millions of years pass by. But when it's Krishna and his leaving, Sud Goswami wants to dedicate one full chapter for his departure and one full chapter for his reception, because that's the effect that Krishna has when he is departing or when he is being received, actually. So Bhagavatam at points speaks very summarily. Entire Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto is spoken in just 2 verses at the end of the 9th canto. Those famous 2 verses. Just 2 verses, entire 10th canto. And then the same 10th canto is then expanded into 90 chapters. Because Parikshit in the beginning says, what is this? That's his mood in the beginning. He says that, please expand this. I am not happy with just 2 verses of 10th chapter, 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he expanded like that. So, summary as well as expansions, actually. That's Bhagavatam. Okay. So coming to text 1, which is this chapter. I just gave some time for putting this context right there. Because one thing is that we are discussing after a long time, and also I wanted to highlight this section, how this is a very special glorification of Sud Goswami, and also the events that they are there when we are coming to the context of this particular verse. So we begin with chapter 10. This is text 1. I will read the verse. I will also read the translation, and you may just take a look. You may see at Vedabase folio so that you can also follow. So this is chapter text 1. Shaunaka uvacha hatva svarikta spradha atatayino yudhishthiro dharma vratam varishtah saha nujay pratyavaruddha bhojanah katham pravritta kimakarashit tata. Translation. Shaunak Mushi asked, after killing his enemies who desired to usurp his rightful inheritance, how did the greatest of all religious men, Maharaj Yudhishthira, assisted by his brothers, rule his subjects? Surely he could not freely enjoy his kingdom with unrestricted consciousness. Okay, and we will also discuss from purport some things. Okay, so this is the first verse from this canto, this particular chapter. And if you see, if you want to know about chapter's content, especially, Prabhupada's summary is there wherever it's available, especially for further cantos, and wherever it's available for most of the Bhagavatam. You get idea of what are the contents. Usually, the Bhagavatam's, that particular chapter's contents are very nicely summarized by acharyas in an introductory verse, which they call it as karika. So in the beginning of every chapter, there is a karika that is written by acharyas like Srila Sridhar Swami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And in that, in one verse, they will give all the major sections of Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam's that chapter. So actually, if you want to know what is there in this chapter, these karikas are the best places. In fact, any analysis done by anybody on what are the Bhagavatam sections is coming from those karikas only. Because those karikas will explain, this is explained, this is explained, and this is explained in this particular chapter. Like if you take this particular chapter, so Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that what is there in this chapter, he says, Nyasya Nishkantake Rajye Pandavam Swapurim Harehe Gachatah Kuru Nari Bhi Stutir Dashame Uchate. So he says that Lord Krishna established Pandava, that is Yudhishthir, as a king without any other enemies. This is one topic. So King Yudhishthir's establishment, by Lord Krishna, means Yudhishthir became the king. That is one topic discussed in few verses. Then Lord Hari's departure, Swapurim Harehe Gachatah. Lord Krishna's departure to his Dwarka, to his Swapuri. This is also discussed when he is departing, leaving the Hastinapur. And Kuru Nari Bhi Stutihi, and the glorification by the ladies of Hastinapur. This is all is talked about in the 10th chapter, he said. 3 sections: Yudhishthir's enthronement and Yudhishthir's rule, Lord's leaving Hastinapur, and finally the glorification of Kuru ladies. So that's all. Actually 3 major sections are there in this particular chapter. So this chapter actually, the Shaunaka's question, this is a question by Shaunaka, and its beginning, it's what is the question? Let's try to understand this verse. Hatva swariktha spridha artatayino Yudhishthiro dharma bhatam varishtha. Hatva, by killing, whom did Yudhishthir and the Pandavas, destroy or kill? Swariktha spridha. Swariktha spridha refers to those who were desirous or those who were competing for his kingdom. Swariktha. Riktha means riches or wealth or kingdom. So that which was Yudhishthir, Swariktha, Swarajya, Spridha, Swasya Rikthe ye Spardhante. Actually, ये लोग युधिष्ठिर के स्वरिक्त स्वराज्य के लिए स्पर्धा कर रहे थे या उसकी स्पृहा कर रहे थे. That's the meaning. These Kauravas, they were actually desiring that was meant for Yudhishthir. So they were killed, by Pandavas. They were atatayina. Not only they were desiring Yudhishthir's riches, but they were atatayina. We know aggressors, 6 kinds of aggressors are there. So these people, Kauravas, were aggressors actually in all 6 ways. They had tried to destroy the Pandavas. So they were killed by Pandavas. They were killed by Pandavas, and especially Yudhishthira, who is known as Dharma Bhritam Varishtha. He is actually the best of all those who uphold religion. Dharma Bhritam Varishtha. So this Yudhishthir, after killing Kauravas, Katham Pravruttaha, how did he rule the kingdom? Katham Pravruttaha, Kim Akarashittataha. And also, what did he do? How was he ruling his kingdom? And what activities did he do? This is what is being asked in the verse. Sahanujaihi, when he was ruling, assisted by his brothers. The brothers were assisting him. They were all his subordinates. And one very important word is there in the verse, Pratyavaruddha Bhojanaha. Actually, although these Kauravas were trying to enjoy or take away Yudhishthir's kingdom, they were Atatayi. Still, when they were killed, Yudhishthir was Pratyavaruddha Bhojana. What does this mean? Pratyavaruddha Bhojana. Actually, it means Yudhishthir felt a great remorse or regret that he had killed these people. And that's why he could not enjoy the kingdom. Prabhupada translates that, you know. Surely he could not freely enjoy his kingdom with unrestricted consciousness. So although such rightful kingdom was won and such evil, wicked people were killed, such was Yudhishthir's heart that he felt that actually he didn't feel like he could enjoy that kingdom because he had lost all his brothers. You know? So he was so noble, he was so virtuous that although such evil Kauravas were killed, still he felt that uh, I don't want to enjoy this kingdom because I have caused the death of my cousins. He really felt for them. So that was Yudhishthir's exalted status actually. He was so noble, you know. So this context of this verse is coming from the prior verse actually. If you see the prior verse, last verse of previous chapter, Pitra Chanumato Raja Vasudevano Modita Chakara Rajyam Dharmena Pitru Paitamaham Vibhu. So it is said that King Yudhishthir, he ruled the kingdom, Chakara Rajyam, Vasudevano Moditaha. As per the instructions of Lord Vasudev, he ruled the kingdom. So although a general reference was given that he ruled the kingdom as per the Vasudev's instructions, but specifically Shaunak also wanted to know how did he rule the kingdom? What did he do? He surely acted as per instructions of Vasudeva, but he also wanted to know something more further. The way he ruled his kingdom and how was his kingdom? What activities did Yudhishthir do? So that's why this question is asked. Katham pravruttaha kim akarishattat. These two questions you can remember. How did he rule the kingdom and what all activities he did? So because these two will be answered as it goes ahead. So in this manner, actually Krishna tested Yudhishthir twice. Once by taking away everything that Yudhishthir was possessing, means actually the rightful kingdom that Yudhishthir was having. So everything was lost. Even the Indraprasth and everything, whatever he had was lost to this Duryodhana and people. So when he was in forest, Yudhishthir was actually always very stable. He never lost his composure. In fact, he was very happy to be in forest. You know, he never desired a kingdom also. He was just happy with those 5 villages also. But Kauravas were not ready. So at one point, Krishna took away everything and tested Yudhishthir. And Yudhishthir was really, as his name suggests, Buddhi Sthiraha. What is Yudhishthir? Yudhi Sthiraha iti Yudhishthira. You know, one who is always very stable in yuddha, in the war. So let that war be internal war or let that war be external war. One who is stable in any war is known as Yudhishthira. So that was Yudhishthir, Yudhishthira. When he was fighting a war, you know, with his internal mind and senses, or whether it was a war outside, he was always a sthira person, stable. You know? So Yudhishthir was tested in that manner, and then Lord gave him everything. By Kurukshetra war, everything was awarded back to him. Such vast kingdom, and you know, such fame. Lord had him perform 3 Ashwamedh Yajnas and gave him such a fame that even Indra doesn't have by his 100 Ashwamedh Yajnas. Actually, that was fame of Yudhishthir. So by giving him everything, he again tested him, and it was the same Yudhishthir, Yudhi Sthiraha. You know, he just remained the same stable Dharma Bhratam Varishtha. Actually, you know, one who is the best of all upholders of a religion. You know, so in this manner, this was Yudhishthir actually. Vallabhacharya says in this particular verse's commentary that by reading Hatva, Atataina Hatva, you know, by hearing that or reading that Yudhishthir killed his competitors who were aggressors, somebody may feel like, oh, okay, so this is again a story of revenge and vengeance and defeating somebody who was a competitor and all. No, he says immediately, that's why dharma vratham varishtha. He's not a prakritah, he's not a materialist, he's dharma vratham varishtha. What to speak of having knowledge of dharma? Dharmam eva grihitva tishtanti tesham madhe shrestha. जो धर्म को धारण करके जीते हैं, ऐसे में सर्वश्रेष्ठ युधिष्ठिर. दैट इज वल्लभाचार्य's explanation of धर्म प्रथम वरिष्ठ. धर्म का ज्ञान नहीं, जो धर्म को धारण करके जीवन जीता है, उसमें सर्वश्रेष्ठ. दैट इज युधिष्ठिर. So such a person he was, like that. And still, he always was very happy with whatever Lord has provided to him, like that. So whether people were his competitors and aggressors, still he felt some remorse, sadness that they were killed. And that's why Shaunak is asking that such a person actually who was not happy because his cousins were killed, how did he rule? That is what is being asked. Actually, Yudhishthir is another name of Yudhishthir is Ajat Shatruhu. So one meaning of Ajat Shatru is one who's Yasya Shatruhu na jatah, one whose enemy is not born. Basically means that one who doesn't have any enemy. But actually there is another interesting meaning of Ajata Shatru that Acharyas give, and that is Ajatah Yasya Shatru Asti Sah Ajata Shatru. So what does it mean? जिसका अजात नाम का शत्रु है, तो अजात कौन है भाई? So actually Duryodhan is known as Ajata. Duryodhan's name is Ajata. In Mahabharata he is referred as Ajata. So why he is known as Ajata? Because Duryodhan was not born like any other child. Gandhari in the feat of anger, she kicked or rather she hit her womb, and because of that there was a miscarriage. The womb fell out, the embryo fell out, and then the embryo was split into 100 different parts, and they were put in the pots, and then that's how Kauravas were born. So that's why they are ajatah, literally. They are not born, because they are not born like any other child. So you understand, this is not aja, unborn. Okay, this is different. Ajata. They are not born like ordinary children. So Duryodhan or any other Kaurava was known as Ajata, and that's why Ajata Shatru. Yudhishthir is known as Ajata Shatru. Actually, means Yudhishthir never accepted or never considered anybody as enemy, but Duryodhan considered him as an enemy. In this world, sometimes we may not consider anybody as an enemy, but the world may consider us as an enemy. So from that angle, actually there was no enemy of Yudhishthir, fine, but Duryodhan considered him as an enemy. So that's also one meaning of Ajata Shatru. So because of that only, the whole war was there, because Duryodhan was inimically disposed towards Yudhishthir, who was actually Ajat Shatru, who really didn't have any inimical feeling towards anybody. So what Prabhupada does is, he takes these themes, and in the purport he speaks about these words. See, one of the very good ways to analyze Prabhupada's purport is you should see what words of the verse Prabhupada is referring to. Sometimes we may find, and I'm saying just apparently, sometimes we may find Prabhupada's purport as very, okay, why is he bringing this point after this? Okay, the next paragraph, why suddenly this? Sometimes you find Prabhupada's purports are disconnected. They are not disconnected, I'm saying, but they appear to be disconnected. Actually, one of the reasons why this may appear is because you might not be reading the purport looking at the verse. See, the traditional style of commentation is always when a commentator comments, he brings up a new idea by referring to a new word of the verse. So Prabhupada often does that in his purports. He goes back to the word of the verse and he starts explaining that word without necessarily saying that this and this word means this. Sometimes he says that in purport, this word is very significant. But sometimes he just explains next word without saying that he is now explaining this word. So that's when you may find it as this bit disconnected. But that's not the way actually. You should see the verse and its words and you understand what word he is explaining from the verse. So this is why it's very important that we should not neglect the verse actually. In any method of study, the original, the mula matram, the original text should never be neglected. The whole purpose of purport is actually to get one to the original text. Sometimes we just get away with the original text trying to find out what's the essential point in this verse. Actually, that's not a very serious student's approach. If you see the words of the verse, that's the whole style in which commentators speak. Actually, they take one word of the verse and they comment. If it was Sanskrit, typically how they comment is, hatva iti, means now let us talk about the word hatva. Swarikta spridha iti, atata, iti. So they take one word, at least those which are most significant words, and they explain it. So Prabhupada often does this in his purport. But if you don't catch what word he is explaining, then you may feel like, oh, why suddenly this discussion is coming? How is it connected to the previous paragraph? Well, it may not be connected to the previous paragraph at all, because he is explaining another word. You understand this? So this is also one outlook with which you can always read Prabhupada purports. Like you see, Maharaj Yudhishthir was the greatest of all men of religion. So this is now his translation of Dharma Bhritam Varishtaha, isn't it? He's talking about Dharma Bhritam Varishtaha, like that. Thus, he was not at all inclined to fight with his cousins for the sake of enjoying the kingdom. I am reading from purport. Please see the purport. He fought for the right cause because the kingdom of Hastinapur was his rightful inheritance, Swariktha, and his cousins wanted to usurp it for themselves, Swariktha Spridha. Understand this? But then further Prabhupada says, he fought therefore for the right cause under the guidance of Lord Krishna, but he could not enjoy the results of his victory because his cousins were all killed in the fight. This is Pratyavaruddha Bhojanaha. In this manner, he is actually going about the words. And sometimes one particular word is explained in 3, 4, 5 lines. And that's how you understand. So whenever you see a new idea coming up, check. It might be very well connected to one of the words of the verse that Prabhupada is explaining, like that. This is a traditional way, actually, the Srimad Bhagavatam text is studied. And this way may take some time, but actually you will understand every part of the purport very well, because you just understand what is he referring to, like that. So this is how it is. So Prabhupada takes those ideas from the verse and then he proceeds like that. So at this point, I would stop, although of course I gave a lot of introduction in this class, but I would pause here and would check if there are any questions on whatever we have discussed. If there are none, then we can proceed. Okay, Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu, any questions that you want to ask or type? Okay, there is a question which says, what was that as the summary of each chapter? Okay, so that is known as Karika, Karika, Karika. So this is just as you have Karaka, similarly this is Karika. This is a introductory verse that explains the chapter's content. Okay, any other question? Balbhadra Kripa Prabhu, any of the devotees in the hall, they have any question?
Yes, they have a question. Raghav Prabhu. Yes.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, can you please speak louder?
You are able to hear? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, now I am able to hear. Yes.
Vijay, could you please about the bhojana? Huh? Like
Yeah.
it's like full sandhi is there. So I
Yeah.
understood the purport, what you told, that he was feeling remorse and he was not able to
Yeah.
enjoy. But if you
Yeah.
could explain
Okay.
what that was.
Okay, but this is little going into Sanskrit, but still, okay, you asked it, so I will just explain. It is prati avaruddha bhojanaha. Actually, bhojana here refers to the thing of enjoyment, bhojana, as we see, meal, right? So here, bhojana means actually rajya, kingdom, that thing which is for enjoyment. Avaruddha bhojanaha. So what it means is pratyavaruddha bhojana literally means that his enjoyment was avaruddha. It was checked. It was checked, because pratyavaruddha bhojana means because of killing of his cousins. Actually, this particular enjoyment, this bhojanam, this kingdom, which was supposed to give him happiness, became actually opposite. Pratyavaruddha bhojana means actually that particular enjoyment was checked, and that particular enjoyment he was not receiving from the kingdom. Means it should have been giving him a great happiness, but then it was not, because he saw that his cousins were killed into that. So that's one meaning of pratyavaruddha bhojana. Another one meaning also Sridhar Swami gives, will not go into that because Prabhupada takes Sridhar Swami's meaning of pratyavaruddha bhojana. But yeah, I mean, basically in simple terms, that's what is. I'll not go into Sandhi and all that because yeah, others will have difficulty. Okay, Prabhu? Yeah, okay. There is one more question. Why Ashwathama was not punished sufficiently at the first instance only? Why was he given another opportunity to shoot next Brahmastra upon Parikshit? And after this also, it seems he was not punished sufficiently. See, actually, you see the context in which Ashwathama was left in the first place was because he was seen as son of Pandava's gurus, and Draupadi was very much actually compassionate towards him. Not only Draupadi, but even Lord Krishna had the same desire, and Yudhishthir and Bhima, no, sorry, Yudhishthir and Arjuna, all of them. Bhima was only one who was saying that this person should be killed, So point was, Ashwathama being a Brahmana, and that too being in a position of son of their guru, that was the reason that he was left in that particular fashion. He became recipient of Queen Draupadi's mercy in that particular situation. So he was spared in that particular instance. Mahabharata does also explain that uh, Ashwathama is a Sapta Chiranjiva. So Ashwathama was not supposed to be killed at that particular instance. And that's how it was ordained actually that he would stay, he would survive even after Kurukshetra's war. That was previously only ordained. These Sapta Chiranjivas are well known in the Shastras beforehand. So that's why punishment was given to him, but at the same time, he was not killed. Uh, what is a just punishment for Kshatriya by humiliating him terribly? It was as good as killing him, but accepting him as son of Dronacharya, and also as uh, somebody who was recipient of Queen Draupadi's mercy, only son of Kripi, all those factors actually all those factors caused in a way that he was spared from getting killed, although he was humiliated like that. So, but Mahabharata does mention this point that actually, yeah, he is supposed to be living. Sapta Chiranjivas live for different times. Some of them live for one day of Brahma. Some of them live for more than that. They have different lifespans. But because he was destined to live more than that, so that also acted in a way that he was spared like that. So that's what is the uh, understanding. Fine. What was the age of Krishna? That is another question. What was the age of Krishna when he erected Dwaraka, Rajsuya Yajna, and Kurukshetra war? Okay. Kurukshetra war is very clear. His age was 125 years. Rajsuya Yajna, his age was 89 years. Because Rajasuya Yajna was performed, and that's where you remember, after which there was a gambling match, and he was called for, the Pandavas were called for gambling match, and then they lost everything, and they were sent into exile. So, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I come to the point now. They were sent for exile for 13 years. So actually, after they came back from exile and Kurukshetra war, Lord's age was, just a minute. Yeah, fine, bro. Actually, Jeev Goswami in Gopal Champu speaks about this, and he talks about 89 years as the age when Kurukshetra war was there. I mean, when it began. And after Kurukshetra war, 36 years Yudhishthir ruled. So 89 plus 36 becomes 125. So that's the total lifespan for which Krishna manifested his pastime, 125 years and 8 months. So 89 years is his age when he was at Kurukshetra. And Kurukshetra means they have already done 13 years of Vanavas. So you deduct 13 years from 89. So that is 76 years was when he was, when the gambling match happened, that's when Rasuya Yajna and gambling match. So that was his age, 76. Beginning of Kurukshetra war is 89 and 125 is his total this thing. When he erected Dwaraka, this is also answered in Gopal Champu. I will check, Prabhu, that this timeline I don't remember. Gopal Champu Jiva Goswami at one point analyzes how Krishna stayed for 10 years and 7 months in Vraja, and then went on to Mathura, how many days he stayed in Mathura, and then from there when he went to Dwaraka. So, the numbers are something around, something like Vraja is 11 years and Mathura is something around 20 years, and then Dwarka is a huge number, from there all the way up to end of his pastimes, like that. So about Dwarka I can tell you, but Rajasuya is 89 and Kurukshetra war is 125 years. Sorry, again Rajasuya Yagya is 76 and Kurukshetra war is 89 and 36 years of Yudhishthir's kingdom. So total is 125. Balbhadra Kripa Pro, is that okay? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Please continue,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Okay, fine. So, yeah, that's all the questions we had. So we will continue now. Yeah, so this is text 2. So Goswami begins to answer. Suta uvacha vamsham kuror vamshadavagni nirritam samroha itva bhava bhavano harihi niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro yudhishtiram pritamana babhuvaha. Translation. Sud Goswami said, Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the maintainer of the world, became pleased after re-establishing Maharaj Yudhishthira in his own kingdom and after restoring the Kuru dynasty, which had been exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger. So Sud Goswami begins to answer this question of Shaunaka. Excuse me. Suta Uvacha, Sud Goswami said, Bhava Bhavano Harihi Pritamana Babhuvaha. Lord Hari, who is known as Bhava Bhavana, Pritamana Babhuvaha. I am speaking on the text. You can take a look at the text. So he became very pleased in his heart, in his mind. How did he become pleased in his mind? By doing two activities. Yudhishtiram Nijarajye Niveshayitva and Kuroho Vamsham Samrohayitva. In Sanskrit, the tva means that after doing that activity, you are going to say something, right? Gatva means jakar, having gone. So similarly, samroha itva, having protected, nivesha itva, having re-established. So what did Bhagavan Bhavabhavano Harihi, how did he become very happy, satisfied in his heart? By समरोह इत्वा वंशम कुरोह, कुरु के वंश को फिर से समरोहन करके. How did he do samrohan? How did he, literally samroha itva means actually ankuritam kritva. Ankuritam kritva means, you understand? By having that dynasty, by providing that dynasty, what you say, a sapling, or by providing that dynasty an ear, so that is samrohitva. So although vamshadavagni nirritam, although entire Kuruvansh was actually burnt, nirritam, exhausted, finished off in this great forest fire of quarrel between each other. Vamshadavagni, dava kehte hai forest ko, and Agni is the fire. So this great forest fire that took place as a quarrel between Kauravas and Pandavas, fight between Kauravas and Pandavas, it burnt the entire Kuru dynasty. So there was no Vanshaja, no descendant for Kuru Vansh. But what Lord did is literally he brought back Parikshit, and that way he provided that descendant for actually Kuru dynasty. Pandavas or Kauravas both are known as Kurus because Kuru was the Mool Purusha of that dynasty. So that dynasty which had become Nirvansh, which had become devoid of any descendant, what did Lord do? Kuroho Vamsham Samrohayitva. He literally Ankuritam Kritva. Again, Parikshit Rakshanena Ankuritam Kritva. By protecting Parikshit or bringing him back to life, he actually gave back Ankura to this Kuruvansh, and also by establishing Yudhishthir into Nijarajye. He established Yudhishthir as king in his own kingdom. After doing this, that Hari, that Ishvara, that Bhavabhavanaha, Lord Krishna, all these words are for Lord Krishna. Bhavabhavanaha Harihi Ishvaraha Pritamana Babhuvaha. He became very satisfied in the heart. So that's what the verse is talking about. So if you see, Katham Pravruttaha, that was asked in the prior verse, right? How did he rule the kingdom? How did he rule his subjects? Katham Pravruttaha. So in answer to that, Sud Goswami begins by telling, first of all, he speaks how Lord was so satisfied by establishing Yudhishthir in his own kingdom as one of the, as actually the king of his own kingdom, as the emperor. So the introduction to this verse comes in terms of the Lord's pleasure, the happiness Because pleasing the Lord was the singular focus of Yudhishthir. So Sud Goswami begins to speak by saying just Yudhishthir's becoming king was itself a reason for pleasure of the Lord. Forget about talking about further how did he rule. What I'm telling is just by making him king, Lord became so happy. So Bhagavatah Kritakrityatvam ah Vamsham iti. By this verse beginning with Vamsha, the word, भगवान का कृतकृत्यता बोला गया है. Lord felt kritakritya actually, that he felt that I am now really successful in my life because I have made Yudhishthir as the king. भगवतः कृतकृत्यत्वम कहते हैं ना हम लोग, कृतकृत्य लग रहा है मुझे. I feel I am blessed. I feel I am really done with my activities. So similarly, Lord felt that when Yudhishthir became king, Nijarajye Yudhishtiram Niveshayitva Bhagavan Pritamana Babhuvaha. So this is the greatness of Yudhishthir. He became the king, Lord was most happy, like that. Talking about the other words, Vamshadavagni Nirhitam, this great forest is compared to Vamsha, or Vamsh is compared to the forest. And in this forest arose an Agni, the Agni of Krodha, Krodhagni. So, वंश रूपी वन में, वंश रूपी दव में, जंगल में क्रोध रूपी अग्नि से सब कुछ भस्मसात हो गया. That's what is vansh dava agni. But although everything was burnt, what did Lord do? Samrohayitva, by protecting Parikshit, he actually really practically gave the next year of the kingdom of Kurus. And Lord became very happy. Pritamana Babhuvaha. So, just a minute. So what Srila Prabhupada does is he goes into his purport and he explains the various words. So talking about Vamshadavagni Nirritam, in the first line of purport, you see he says, this world is compared to a forest fire caused by the cohesion of bamboo bushes. Such a forest fire takes place automatically. For bamboo, cohesion occurs without external cause. Similarly, actually, in the material world, if we see, the quarrels, fights take automatically, right? In the forest, nobody goes to set up the fire. Nobody goes to begin the fire, but still forest fire takes place and it kind of finishes off, exhausts, completely finishes off the entire forest. So similarly, in material world, actually, sometimes we see the situations in which nobody is to be blamed, but situation in material world is so tricky that misunderstandings grow. And when the winds of misunderstanding grow, then the sparks of, quarrel and the sparks of verbal and physical, trifles, they come about, and we see that sometimes there's a great forest fire like that. So that's how misunderstandings in this world is actually a very great problem, So if we know the nature of this world, then we understand that actually nobody is to be blamed. Sometimes things or situations become so difficult, so distressful, although we may not be at fault, or the other person also may not be at fault. The nature of material world is itself like that. That's why it's compared to a forest fire that way. So Prabhupada also talks about this in the purport. So that's why what Prabhupada makes a point, he says that this is why Lord cannot be blamed actually. Although many people have this idea that Lord Krishna caused the whole Mahabharat war, and because of which so many people died, so many Akshohini Senas were killed. right? And many people say that, many commentators, famous commentators of Mahabharata also say that it's caused because of Lord. Actually, it is because of not knowing the actual truth behind the workings of material world. Hmm? Lord doesn't cause these things in the material world, actually. Lord is not responsible for the mishaps of this world. They are caused by individuals and their own prior karma and the whole atmosphere of material world, actually. So ours is not the case like the problem of evil, as it is known in the Western philosophy, theodicy. There is a branch of philosophy called theodicy, Theodicy, in which they discuss why there is evil in this world. And it's a big discussion. Semitic religions like Christianity and Judaism and Islam, they discuss if God is all good, that is benevolent, and if God is all powerful, that is omnipotent, omnipotent God and benevolent God, all good and all powerful God, then how can be there evil in this world? They don't understand this. If God is all powerful and if God is all good also, why there is evil in this world? That's a question that has been discussed by for ages in these religions and the philosophies. So they say either God should be not all good, means God has some evil tendencies. Sometimes he enjoys, making people fight and kill each other. So he's not all good. Or they say he is not all powerful. If he is all good, then how the evil is there? Then that means he is not all powerful. So there is this Saturn, Shaitan bhi hai, and sometimes Saturn overpowers God. So that's how there is evil in this world. So they say that if there is evil in this world, don't blame God. Actually, he wants good for you, but what to do? He is very weak. He is not omnipotent. Saturn overcomes him sometime. So just as your near and dear one, sometimes you see that he may not be potent enough to take care of you, but still you forgive him, right? Because he is also having limitations. So similarly, God also has limitations. Please forgive him. He's he's not an omnipotent God. He is only a benevolent God. Or he is a benevolent God, but he is not omnipotent God. Or, all such kinds of ideas are there. But actually, Prabhupada used to speak always about this, that this is a complete disaster in understanding about the God. It's a complete intellectual fiasco. So they don't understand what is the role of karma and what is the role of Prakriti, Purusha, and Jiva. This triangle of Prakriti, Jeev, Jagat, Jagdish, or Prakriti, Purusha, and Jiva. If you understand, then you do understand actually who is to be blamed for mishaps in this world. So Prabhupada says this in his purport. Further towards the middle part of the purport, Prabhupada says, the whole plan of creation is made in that way, and one who does not come to his senses suffers in the material world by pangs inflicted by the illusory energy of the Lord. Prabhupada says that Lord is surely not the cause of mishaps in this world, but Lord has a plan for this material world. He wants all the living entities to get purified and go back home, back to Godhead. So for this plan, he wants to establish his bona fide representative to rule in this world. He wants that dharma to be established. So for establishing this, Lord makes sure that his bona fide representative is victorious and all the vicious elements are destroyed. So if you see from this angle, it's actually plan of the Lord. So he is the cause. Actually, he is the one who is the chief cause behind whatever is happening in such cases. So causation is a very complex phenomenon. When you talk about causation, and Vedic scriptures ascribe the causation to Jiva, causation to Prakriti, causation to Lord, Means sometimes Lord is said to be the cause, sometimes Jiva is said to be the cause, sometimes Prakriti is said to be the cause. So one should know very clearly the perspective with which they are speaking. You understand? There are perspectives, the angles from which the causation is talked about. If we don't understand this, there are many scholars of Gita, they get very confused. You know, sometimes Krishna says modes are the doers. Sometimes he says I am the only doer. Sometimes he says Jiva is the only doer. Are who is the doer, bhai? Exactly. Is Jiva the doer? Jagdish the doer? Jagat the doer? You know. And then you talk about karta. He speaks about 5 factors of action. Panch karta. You know, alag alag prathak vid. Adhishthanam tatha karta karanam cha prathak vidam. You know. So he speaks about many different factors of action. So unless and until those perspectives are understood, when you talk about the responsibility of sin, then Jiva's desire comes in picture. Then you talk about Jiva is responsible. When you talk about the resources, the facilities that are provided, you know, you talk about material nature. And when you talk about actually who is controller of both material nature and Jiva, then you talk about Purusha. So this causation, because it is not understood, then this problem of evil and all such things come out. So we should know these different angles are there when we talk about Lord is the cause and Lord is not the cause, and Jiva is the cause and Jiva is not the cause. This matter. Okay, so we move on to the text 3. Nishamya bhishmoktamatha chutoktam pravrutya vijnana vidhuta vibrama shashasagamendra ivajitashraya paryudhyupanta manujanuvartita. Translation by Prabhupada. Maharaj Yudhishthira, after being enlightened by what was spoken by Bhishma Deva and Lord Sri Krishna, the infallible, Sri Krishna, the infallible, engaged himself in matters of perfect knowledge because all his misgivings were eradicated. Thus he ruled over the earth and seas and was followed by his younger brothers. Nishamya bhishmoktam adhachutoktam. Nishamya is by hearing. What did Yudhishthir do? He heard the instructions which were spoken by Bhishma, Bhishmoktam, Achyutoktam, and also Lord Krishna's instructions. Vasudevano moditaha, we saw in the last chapter's last verse, prior chapter's last verse. Hearing the instructions of Lord Krishna and hearing the instructions of Bhishma, Yudhishthir became Pravrutta Vijnana Vidhuta Vibramaha. Actually, he became established in Vijnana, Pravrutta Vijnana. He became realized, you know, he became established in that realization. And Vibrama Vidhuta, and all his bewilderment was Vidhuta, was washed away, was gone. Hearing from Bhishma and Lord, he became established in self-realization, and also his bewilderment was gone completely. He was established in perfect knowledge, and he shashasa, he ruled. This is the verb shashasa. Yudhishthira shashasa. How did he rule? That is spoken by Drishtanta. That Drishtanta is spoken by these words Gamindra Ivajitashraya. He ruled Gam. Gam refers to the Prithvi, the earth. Go. So this Prithvi was actually, this earth was ruled by him, just as Indra ruled by becoming Ajitashraya, just as Lord Indra, by taking the shelter of Ajita, he ruled his celestial planets. Similarly, Yudhishthir ruled this earth by taking shelter of Lord Ajita. So here, in case of Yudhishthir, Ajita means Lord Krishna, and for Indra, the Ajita means Upendra, Vamana. So just as by taking shelter of Vamana, Indra received back his kingdom from Bali and ruled by becoming devoted to Lord Vamana. Similarly, Yudhishthir also ruled by becoming devoted to Lord Krishna. And what did he rule? He ruled the earth, which is Paridhyupantam, which is surrounded by the oceans. Paridhi Upantam. So Paridhi is Samudra, earth which is surrounded by oceans. Chatus Samudram. So he ruled this entire, Bharata. And Anujanu Vartitaha. And he was followed very much by his brothers. Anujanu Vartitaha. His brothers very much followed him. And this is also referring to Indra. These all words refer to both Drishtanta and Siddhanta. In a verse, when there is an example, that is called as Drishtanta Paksha. And when based on that example, something is being spoken, that is known as Siddhanta Paksha. So these words here, Gamindra, Ivajitashraya, Paridhyupanta, Manuja, they refer to Siddhanta Paksha as well as Drishtanta Paksha. Both. Means they refer to the original example, which is Indra, and they also refer to our Yudhishthir, for whom the example is given. Drishtanta and Darshtantika. These are all Sanskrit words, so don't get scared with this. It's basically pretty simple. The object which is compared and the comparison, Upameya and Upamana, like that. Fine. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, here Anujanu Vartita for Yudhishthir means he was followed by his brothers, and Anujanu Vartita for Indra means Indra followed his brother. Okay, so here the arrangement gets different, and it means that actually Indra was following Upendra, that is Vamana. Sanskrit can be interpreted in different ways. So Anujanu Vartita can refer to Indra also. So in this manner. Fine. So this text actually begins to answer the question about Katham Pravruttaha. How did he rule? This is the answer is begun in this verse. After expressing the happiness that Lord experienced establishing the Yudhishthira. So these verses, 4 verses now describe the answer to first question, that is Katham Pravrutta. How did he rule? How was his kingdom? In that fashion, like that. So Pravrutta Vijnana Vidhuta Vibramaha, what does this mean? Prabhupada also actually translates this in his purport. What was that Vijnana? Vijnana was that he understood that everything is under the control of Supreme Lord. And Vibhrama was that I am not the doer. Actually, this is referring to that particular Yudhishthir's bewilderment, that where he was considering, I caused the whole destruction. Because of me, so many people were killed. So, Pravrutta Vijnana Vidhuta Vibhrama is referring to solution of that particular state. He got this Vijnana that actually this was all orchestrated by Lord. And Vibhrama, that I caused this. Because of me, this destruction happened. That was gone. He understood this was actually the plan of the Lord, and Lord wanted this to happen, so he became pacified. Fine. Anujanu Vartitaha, coming to that word also. If you see, although Yudhishthir was not as great a warrior like Bhima or Arjun, Bhima and Arjun were very great warriors. They were the best warriors, in fact, in the Pandava army. But Yudhishthir was still accepted by all of them unanimously as the king. None of them felt that, well, we are the ones who are actually playing the most crucial role in the war. So why this Yudhishthir is becoming the king? No. One thing is, of course, Yudhishthir was the eldest, and he naturally, Prabhupada says, the law of, what is that? Law of primogeniture. One who is eldest will gain the kingdom. He will become the king. Prabhupada says, modern English law of primogeniture in purport. So Yudhishthir was supposed to be the king, but Mahabharata does explain that actually, Yudhishthir, Arjuna and Bhima and all of the others Pandavas were very happy that Yudhishthir was actually the king, because they knew that he was Sakshat Dharmaraj, Dharma Bhatam Varishtha. He knew the codes of Dharma very well, better than any of them. So they were very happy that Yudhishthir should be the king, and Yudhishthir had become the king like that. So they didn't feel like uh, why we have to serve Yudhishthir when we are quite qualified. So actually, this is very important consideration. You know? All of us have different services in Krishna consciousness, and we should know what our service is, and we should be happy to render that service. Actually, you know, sometimes just comparing ourselves with others, we become so miserable. You know? But if we understand and recognize the talents given to us by the Lord, and if we try to engage them in Lord's service and understand our role in the moment of Krishna consciousness, we will be very happy. Then we won't be competing with others and try to become what we are not, or try to vie for covet for such skills which we are not meant for, or which we are not blessed with. So this needs a guidance, of course. I am not saying it is so simple or easy to understand. But what is prayasa and what is swadharma, what services we should be rendering in Krishna consciousness, and should be happy with that. This is a very important factor, especially in terms of heart's disposition. Whatever service we are given, if we are pleasing the authorities, the devotees with that, and it's becoming a great contribution for Krishna consciousness, then whether that service is very great service, limelight service, or whether it is simple one, actually we are very happy to render it. Krishna has bestowed different talents to different people, and we are happy with whatever capacity and talents he has given us. To us, we are very happy with that. So that is the point. Anujanuvartitam. Prabhupada, if you come to purport, he discusses about Maharaj Yudhishthir's Bhishmoktam atha Chutoktam. He discusses first about how, in the first paragraph, about how Yudhishthir was. This is the second last line. Maharaj Yudhishthir was not a typically unenlightened political leader of modern democracy. Maharaj Yudhishthir was instructed by Bhishma Dev and the infallible Lord also, and therefore he had full knowledge of everything in perfection. So Prabhupada talks in this purport about what is an ideal ruler or administrator. So first thing is he should be enlightened, like Yudhishthir, enlightened by Guru Sadhu Shastra, by Lord's instructions and devotees' instructions, so Shastra's instructions. That is the first qualification for an administrator. And second, he should also have the kingly power. Yudhishthir was autonomous. Yudhishthir was autonomous in the sense of full power for execution. Once his saintly council has decided something to be executed, he doesn't have an opposition party who are trying to oppose him and get the bill down, and just finding faults with any noble activity that they are trying to do. So this is one problem with democracy. Even if somebody is noble and little bit understands about religion and what to do, sometimes there are so many opposition people that they don't allow him to do anything. They create such an opposition. Even if he is able to do something, at least in India, after 5 years, the government changes, and then whatever he has done is undo. He does, and the opposition undoes. They do the undo. So actually, one thing is to be enlightened, and another thing is also to be having those powers to actually effect a change. So Prabhupada says this actually. This is in second para. The modern elected executive head of a state is just like a puppet because he has no kingly power. You know, so because of no kingly power, even if he wants to do something good, if he's enlightened, a rare soul, if it's like that, but still he's not able to do. So many opposition will be there. That's why Prabhupada says that in the modern times the situation is very horrible. Prabhupada says that this is towards the end of the last para. This is fifth line from the bottom. It is the person who rules and not the impersonal government. If the person is perfect, the government is perfect. If the person is a fool, the government is a fool's paradise. Very eloquent words. That is the law of nature. So this is. So to conclude, Prabhupada says, therefore, the executive head must be a trained person like Maharaj Yudhishthira, and he must have the full autocratic power to rule over the world. So two criteria. He should be enlightened like Maharaj Yudhishthira, Bhishmoktam Atha Chutoktam, that manner. And he must also have the full autocratic power. Just as here his Shashasa Gamendra Ivajitash. This is what is the purport of this verse. So next three verses talk about the condition of Yudhishthira's kingdom. So these are famous verses, and we'll go quickly through these, and then I will stop for today. So although we have covered less verses, we would have covered less verses today. But yeah, I mean, I'll just make sure that we move ahead tomorrow and further sessions. Okay, this is text 4, 5, and 6 talking about Yudhishthira's kingdom. Katham Pravritta, how did he rule? What was his kingdom? How was it about? So this is it. Kamam Vavarsha Parjanya Sarvakama Dughamahi Sishichu Sma Vrajangavaha Payasodhasvatir Muda. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. So this is description of Yudhishthira's kingdom. Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha. Parjanyaha Kamam Vavarsha. Literally meaning clouds powered that much water or rains that was needed. Kamam Yatheshtam. Kamam means Yatheshtam. As much was needed, that much waters only were powered by the clouds. There was no Ativrashti, or there was no Anavrashti. Not excess rains or drought. It was not the case. Just exact whatever was needed. This is unheard of in modern times, right? We see either there is Ativrashti or Anavrashti. So Parjanyaha Kamam Vavarsha. Sarvakama Dugha Mahi, and Mahi, the earth, she became Sarvakama Dugha. She became the provider, producer of all the necessities of the men, of the people. So earth provided everything, just like Puthu Maharaj's kingdom. How being the cow, she provided everything. After Puthu Maharaj's kingdom, he began to rule. So similarly, here also, Mahi, earth produced all the necessities that were needed for the people. And Sichichu Sma Vrajan Gavaha. Gavaha Vrajan Sishichuhu. गायों ने व्रजों को और गायों ने सारी जमीन को सिंचित कर दिया, सिंचित कर देती थी गायें। किससे? पयसा, दूध से। कैसी गाय? उधस्वती ही, जिनके गाय के थन जो थे बहुत बड़े बड़े थन थे, फैटी मिल्क बैग्स, प्रॉपर सेज, तो इतनी, they were so happy, Muda, that these gavah, these cows which were udhasvatihi, which were having fatty milk bags, they literally did abhishek, they did sinchan of all these pasturing fields, by their milk. So this is amazing state, in which the prosperity is seen. So here talking about Parjanya, Parjanya can also mean Parjanya as a demigod. Parjanya is one of the demigods under Indra, one who is the in charge of the clouds. You know? In Rigveda, Parjanya is considered as the father of the mankind, and earth as the mother. You know, they are treated, they are spoken to be in this manner. So Parjanya is one of those demigods. It can also refer to Indra, or it can also refer to merely clouds, which Prabhupada takes the meaning like that. Or Parjanya, I mean Parjanya in general means rain also. So Parjanya Megha Bhimani Devaha Api. This also can refer to the demigods. There are 33 crore demigods. So many demigods are there. Agni Puran gives description of a list of 33 crore demigods. List means the categories of demigods. So one of them is also Parjanya, and this word can mean also that. Sarvakama Dugamahi, this we already discussed. So Vallabhacharya says here in his commentary that these three verses are talking about lack of three kinds of kleshas in Yudhishthir's kingdom, that is Adhyatmik, Adhibhautik and Adhidaivik kleshas. So how Yudhishthir's kingdom was free from Adhyatmik, Adhibhautik and Adhidaivik is being talked about in these three verses as per Vallabhacharya. In fact, Vallabhacharya talks about the cows also. He says that the cows were so happy that here and there they were running with fatty milk bags, actual cows, fatty milk bags are famous Holstein Friesian or Jersey cows, but these are, these are desi cows with fatty milk bags. So they were so happy, saying that Dharmatma ayam Raja asmat paripalako jatah. Oh, this great King Yudhishthir has come. Asmat paripalaka, he is our protector. And talking to each other like this, they were running in here and there, cavorting, happily. And the milk from their milk bags was coming out, and that was actually doing sinchan. It was getting sprinkled all over the pasturing grounds, and thereby pasturing grounds were getting nourished by the milk of the cows. Today's dairy industry wants to squeeze out as much milk from the cows as possible. They put these machines to, milk bags of the Holstein Friesian cows, and they want to squeeze out so much milk that sometimes with the milk, blood comes out actually. It's such a torture for the poor cow. So actually, here is opposite, where the cows have so much milk that even the pasturing grounds are getting sprinkled. So this is unimaginable prosperity actually, which is seen in these verses like that. So Prabhupada gives an amazing purport over this. You can read this line by line. The entire purport is talking about the vision of Varnashrama and a culture, economic development based on land and cows. That's the theme, in fact, Prabhupada puts in the entire purport. And this purport is full of rhetorical questions Prabhupada that asks. He's just asking questions, exposing the fallacy of material world, and especially the modern times, postmodern times. Like you can see towards the end of the first para, how he's asking question. He's saying, if there is enough milk, enough grains, enough fruit, enough cotton, enough silk, and enough jewels, then why do the people need cinemas, houses of prostitution, slaughterhouses, etc.? What is the need of an artificial, luxurious life of cinema, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels? Has this civilization produced anything but quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men into a hellish factory and the war fields at the whims of a particular man? Questions. And they're rhetorical questions. You just know that the answer is there in the question itself. No good it has produced, actually. Whatever Prabhupada is asking is just so apt like that. Even in the next para, he continues. Why should men kill cows for their selfish purposes? Why should man not be satisfied? Why are there slaughterhouses in this manner? So actually his real concern for the cows and land and Mother Earth is coming out. That's why Prabhupada also spoke that we have to establish Varnashram. That's our 50% of work remaining. So that's anyway a big topic. But what I'm trying to say is prosperity based on land and cows is actually foundational to any other prosperity. Unless and until we understand what the real prosperity is, all other ideas of prosperity in terms of technological advancement and gadgets and skyscrapers and all that will all be baseless. And kind of more or less in a crisis like this, like Corona and all, we actually do understand that how finally what counts is land and food and cows, right? Sometimes we see that even with money and all that, if we don't have things which are essential for life, like food and milk and grains and all that, what use is all the industry and all that? So what is Prabhupada's point is natural resources are foundation. This should be understood. Over and above that, if something is working not against the nature, we may be able to accept it like that. But foundational advancement should be understood. That is in terms of land and cows and that in that particular manner. That way. So Prabhupada says that this is how we should lead our lives. Otherwise, it will just be a life of cats and dogs, the artificial greed and power. He says that towards the end. Okay, 2 more verses. Nadhyah samudra girayah savanaspati virodhah falantyoshadhayah sarva kamamankutu tasya vai. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, cripples, and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. So now this is also talking about other natural resources. This is talking about Nadi, the Nadyah, that is the rivers, oceans, and mountains. Vanaspati is the plants, vegetables, proper translates. Virudha is creepers. Falantya Oshadhaya. Oshadhaya refers to the medicinal herbs. It just doesn't refer to homeopathic and allopathic drugs, but it refers to the herbs. Sarvaha kamamanrutu tasya vai. They actually, all of them were very much available in profusion as per the seasons in Yudhishthir's kingdom. Prabhupada gives a brilliant translation, in fact. He says all these things like rivers and all, they paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. So they paid their tax quota. So actually, very nice translation, because he's making the point that nature is also conscious. Nature is not unconscious. Nature is not inert. All these beings, nature is also conscious. Earth, actually, she is a personality, and the natural resources, getting them depends upon Earth's. How do we treat the Earth? Based on that, all the reciprocations will be by her. And that's how Prabhupada writes here in the purport also. First line, he says, since Maharaj Yudhishthir was under protection of Ajita, the infallible Lord, as above mentioned, the properties of the Lord, namely rivers, oceans, hills, forests, etc., were all pleased. See, how is he talking about? These are properties of the Lord, rivers and all that, and they were very much pleased. And that's how they paid their respective quota of taxes to the king, means they provided abundantly the resources that they are supposed to provide. So Prabhupada continues the theme of how the life, the factory, tools and machinery, that's not the real advancement, actually. Unless and until we have natural resources which come by Supreme Lord's mercy, then everything else will be unsuccessful, and such a civilization will be doomed sooner or later, by some of the natural consequences, like that, in this fashion. So Prabhupada says that finally, that actually it's best that we live in the harmony with the nature, and if Lord is pleased, the nature will be in harmony and bestow all the needs, like that. So this idea is very different actually, from the scientist idea, and especially the ideas of modern science. Actually, even Western science began with an idea of respecting nature, but then there were philosophers like Francis Bacon, who came up with ideas like knowledge is power. That was very famous quote which he said. And how that knowledge means actually power, and we should overpower the nature. Such ideas began coming into mainstream science, and that's how the technology industrial revolution and all that took place. That's another aspect of history which has a profound philosophical basis about how people's ideas changed. But anyway, that's something that you can explore. Fine, the last verse for today, text 6. नाधयो व्याधयः क्लेशा दैवभूतात्महेतवः अजातशत्रावभन् अजातशत्रावभवन् जन्तूनां राज्ञि कर्हिचित्. So in Yudhishthir's kingdom, there were no, proper translation. Because of the kings having no enemy, the living beings were not at any time disturbed by mental agonies, diseases, or excessive heat or cold. So in Yudhishthir's kingdom, there were no adhis or vyadhis. Adhis are mental anxieties, vyadhis are physical diseases. So adhi vyadhi nahi the, they were not there. And daiva bhutatma hetava, there was no klesha that was caused by either daiva, adhidaivika, bhuta, that is adhibhautika, or atma, adhyatmika. Daiva bhutatma hetava, kleshas caused by, distresses caused by these three were not there in Yudhishthir's kingdom. Ajat Shatro Ratni, when Yudhishthir was ruling, none of the citizens had any of these problems like Adhi Vyadhis and any of the kleshas, Adhyatmik, Adhidhaivik, or Adhibhautik. So what Prabhupada does in purport is, he says that why these kleshas come. So Prabhupada says to be non-violent to human beings and to be killer or enemy of the poor animals is Satan's philosophy. So Prabhupada says when we think that only humans are to be protected and respected, but kill the innocent animals by slaughterhouses, so the suffering that is inflicted upon such living beings comes back to the humans, and that's how there are wars, and there are quarrels, and there are cold war, hot war. Prabhupada says hot wars and cold wars, collectively, nationally, individually. So if you inflict suffering on the animals, it has to come back to you, and that's how the wars and all that cause that suffering. So because Yudhishthir didn't have any enemies, no one was anybody's enemy there, and even the praja, all the animals and all the praja was taken care very nicely. So obviously there was no any kind of klesha in Yudhishthir's kingdom. This is what is talked about. So Prabhupada speaks about how it's very important that we give up our enmity towards lower, especially animal forms, living beings which are like our younger brothers, that way. But if the administrator is not good, this doesn't happen. Prabhupada says in the middle of the purport, there is a proverb in Bengali that a bad king spoils the kingdom and a bad housewife spoils the family. So similarly, a bad administrator, he spoils the whole, the whole kingdom, whole state, like that. But if we recognize that actually Lord is the owner of everybody, everything, and all this praja is actually belonging to the Lord. So then one will see that one will give protection not only to humans but also to the animals, like that. So unless and until we recognize universal fatherhood, Prabhupada used to say that we won't be able to have universal brotherhood. Let it be in terms of humans and humans or humans and animals in this manner. So in this manner, Yudhishthir's kingdom was actually a very prosperous kingdom with none of these kleshas present there. They were happy citizens. So after this, there begins the description of Lord's departure, which is the second section of on this chapter, and a very wonderful section with very amazing verses. So we'll discuss this tomorrow. So at this point, I would like to stop. And of course, it's already past 1, but from tomorrow, I will try to just begin dot on time and also end on time. But if any questions are there, please you can ask. For others, those who wish to drop, please go ahead and you may drop because we are already past the time. Yes, Balbhadra Kripa bro. Okay, there is a question here which has come in chat. You mentioned the way to read purports is connect them to words in the verse. Does it also happen that sometimes Srila Prabhupada or other acharyas would not comment on some word of the verse? Yes, very true. They will not comment on a certain verse because that word may not be commented by previous acharyas, or Prabhupada may not find it relevant for modern context, and he may not comment it. So yeah, that is obviously there. Sometimes you may not find. So in such cases where you don't see connection how this discussion is coming, it is best to also check with experts, and because sometimes there are points straight connected to words, and sometimes there are implied points. In logic there is 3 vrittis. There is mukhya vritti, gauna vritti, and there is lakshana vritti. There is vyanjita vritti, are also known as mukhya vritti, abhidha vritti, lakshana vritti, and vyanjita vritti. Anyway, what my point is, sometimes it would be directly related to the word, sometimes it would be indirect, and sometimes it would be indicated. So in 3 different ways, in these 3 different vrittis, commentations are done: mukhya vritti, gauna vritti, and vyanjita vritti. So you may have to sometimes understand those terms or check with those who are experts in that. Is this also the way we should read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita? Yes, you can read in this fashion also. And of course, I'm not here saying that this is the absolute way in which Prabhupada has written the purports. Writing purports is an acharya's, uh, it's his heart, and we can't dictate acharya's heart. Sometimes they follow a very systematic pattern of panchanga nyaya, or 3 vrittis when writing commentation. Sometimes they just have a spontaneous outpouring of their heart. So Prabhupada used to say, my purports are devotional ecstasies, right? So this is one of the tools with which we can also try to see, because Prabhupada is very systematic in his purports. He follows acharyas very well and also gives his unique contributions many places. So this is just help for you to understand that this is how Prabhupada writes. And if you understand by this style very well, if you don't understand, you could also see that Prabhupada writes sometimes in different manner. Okay, fine. There is another question. I have seen many times that we and Mayavadi use analogy drishtanta to establish a principle, that is Siddhanta. For example, parrot and tree, ghatakash, patakash, okay? But analogy has to be used to explain a principle, Shakha Chandra Nyaya, and not to establish it, since analogies are material. So how can one accept a principle based on analogy? Only after following a principle, then one can realize it. Is this understanding correct? It is correct. No problem. See, when you say Siddhanta Charcha, when you say there is a discussion on Siddhanta, there it has to be logical. And in order to have it logical, upamana, analogies is one of the bona fide pramanas. So you can use this. This is one of the 10 pramanas, upaman. There are 10 pramanas. I mean, 3 are primary, Shabda, Pratyaksha, Anuman. But apart from that, there are 7 other pramanas which Jiva Goswami speaks. So when you take a discussion, in that you can use all these 10 pramanas and establish a point. But that establishment is only a philosophical establishment. It is not a realization unless and until one takes that point and applies it in life and realizes it. Then you can say that actual establishment or actual sakshatkar has happened. But in a logical argument, you always speak about in a manner of logic, tarka. So tarka allows you to use analogies and prove your points, which is a philosophical proof in that manner. But we no way we say that just by tarka we will establish truth. That's not possible. Tarko patishta shrutoyo vivinna nasa vrishiriyasya matam na bhinnam dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gata sapanta. So tarka can never lead to establishment of something. Tarka can only give us the path. Tarka can only tell us, okay, this is to be done. And then once you do it and realize, then you say that he is tatvataha understood. So that's the point. What was the next question? What was the punishment given to Ashwathama after he shot Brahmastra upon Parikshit? Okay, this is what was the punishment given to Ashwathama after he shot Brahmastra upon Parikshit. In Bhagavatam, there is no mention. Well, I can check this. This episode also comes in Mahabharata. So I'll answer this tomorrow, Prabhu. I should just check. There is some chastisement that happens for him. I will just find this out. Okay. Thank you for this question. Okay. In purport, Srila Prabhupada mentioned what is need of houses of prostitution. But in next chapter, where prostitutes welcome Krishna in Dwarka, Srila Prabhupada in purport talks about their need just as wine shops are needed to avoid illegal smuggling. Achha, so this is not a question. Looks like this is a comment. Okay, well, we will come to this verse. What does prostitutes in Dwarka mean? Vara Mukhya, that's the word there. Vara Mukhya has a very specific meaning. And even the way Prabhupada uses prostitute word is very different than the way we understand it now. These are English words which lose their sense, change their sense over decades. So anyway, we will discuss this in there when it comes to that particular verse. Okay, another question. Aham vedmi shuko veti vyaso veti na veti va bhaktya bhagavatam grahyam na buddhya na chatikaya. Why it is said that Vyasa may or may know or not? Okay, this is a big discussion. Aham vedmi shuko veti vyaso. Why it said? Okay, well, I'll just see if there is any other question related to this, related to today's discussion. Dandvat Prabhu regarding Srila Prabhupada's systematic purports. Indeed, Srila Prabhupada's every lecture is extremely systematic, sticking to the verse words and very authentic quoting verse. Okay, fine. Yeah, Prabhu is also commenting that Prabhupada is very systematic in his purports. He goes by explanation of the words, and that is a traditional style. I mean, Prabhupada just is a stalwart acharya from a great parampara, and obviously he will follow the style of how a commentation is done. So you very much find in his so those are the questions. Yeah, so I'm coming to this. Yeah, I'm coming to Aham Vedmi Shuko Veti Vyaso Veti Na Veti Va. Yeah. So why is it said that Vyasa may or may not know? Actually, this verse appears in Puranas in different ways. This verse has many versions. This verse is also there for Bhagavad Gita. Aham Vedmi Shuko Veti Vyaso Veti Na Veti Va. Sridharha Sakalam Veti Srinasimha Prasadata. You know, and this one is also one version that comes. Why this is said to be so? Because if you see in terms of the depth of understanding that is there in uh, Bhagavatam's topics of rasa, such a great depth is there in Bhagavatam's topics that although Vyas was there and Narad was there, Srila Shukdev Goswami was chosen as the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? So this is surely not a dushan with Vyasa, but the exalted position of Shukadev, or exalted position of those who follow in the lines of Shukadev, those who are getting that Saharahasyam Jnanam, that confidential knowledge, they are being glorified. Actually, the knowledge of rasas, the knowledge of uh, the deep mellows in Bhagavatam and Krishna Lila, that the Shukadev is revealed because of his position of being a parrot of Lord Krishna, is actually much exalted than any of the other speakers of Srimad Bhagavatam, even for that matter, even Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is no doubt exalted. He is, Sahitya Avatar. He is not different than Supreme Lord. But by Lord's own arrangement, actually, Shukdev is given a very great position in Lord's Leela, and also a very profound revelation of the mellows of Srimad Bhagavatam's verses. So, when Puranas talk about this, they talk in this manner that that special personality was chosen in the form of Shukdev by Lord himself. That's how we know that Shukdev in front of Vyas, or in front of Narad, Shukdev is awarded that particular seat of being the speaker of Bhagavatam. Of course, it's also to demonstrate the point of, we can say Guru Parampara. The fruit becomes even more sweeter as it comes down, as it is tested by Shuka and comes down to us more and more. But it is indeed a fact that Shukdev is credited with a very great uh, realization and understanding, um, by Lord's mercy, by Lord's chosen desire of Srimad Bhagavatam's great mellows. So that's why he is glorified in that manner. Okay, here is one more. You had mentioned that autocratic power is needed to rule properly. Yet, by the blessings of Kali Yuga, it seems that one person ruling may cause problems in leadership. For example, Srila Prabhupada said to establish GBC. Some temples have committees like TMC, and democratic countries have opposition parties. At the same time, countries like China are suffering due to perverted autocracy or dictatorship. So it seems that though we appreciate autocracy, it may not be practical due to effects of Kali Yuga. Can you kindly give your opinion based on Guru Sadhushas? Okay, so we discussed about this. Actually, when I was talking on that particular verse, there are both the things important there. Prabhupada talks about having full autocratic powers, but before that he talks about the administrator being enlightened like Maharaj Yudhishthir, and being guided by, Bhishmoktam, Achyutoktam, Guru Sadhu Shastra. So it cannot be either of the condition. It has to be both. It's and gate, not or gate. This and that. The administrator has to be enlightened like Yudhishthir, and he also has to have full autocratic powers. Anyway, Prabhupada in other places in his classes many times speaks about Kali Yuga, where he speaks that Kali Yuga situation is just so complex. So these ideas are very good if they are applied in its purest sense and with all its condition fulfilled. If we just take the autocracy part and say that autocrats are good, well, as you have said, dictators have wrought havoc. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we have seen that how dictators, modern monarchs have done a great havoc in terms of such abuse of people, killing, genocides, holocausts, and all that. So Kali Yuga is actually very complex. Prabhupada does say that in many conversations that, but he says that as an ideology, if the dictator is or if the administrative head is enlightened like Maharaj Parikshit, he is guided by Guru Sadhu Shastra, and he also has power to effect a change, that's a very ideal situation. Either of this is missing, yeah, there will be some issues. So it's the whole complete arrangement in this fashion. He's an enlightened administrator guided by Guru Sadhu Shastra, and also he has autocratic power, which is a rarity in Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga will have its complexities that we have to deal with. So Prabhupada said, democracy, fine, demons crazy, the crazy bunch of demons running here, there, like that. But then, I mean, a dictator, yeah, he is also wreaking so much of havoc. So first thing is, people, the administrators have to become Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada, you know that Prabhupada offered a program to Indira Gandhi about MPs, all of them should be initiated devotees. And he says, I think they should have Bhakti Shastri degree, and there should be in the beginning discussion on Bhagavatam before we begin this Lok Sabha sessions. So I think that will save a lot of problems. Okay, so those are my thoughts. There is one more question. Dharmaraj, what is that? Dharmaraj Yudhishthir was selected as king, but Yamaraj is not king of heaven. True, I'm not getting this question about Yamaraj. It seems to be disconnected, or maybe it's split into two. In between, there is another question of autocratic. So I will just move to the next question. Ashwathama came to Barsana and got mercy of Radharani. What is the story? He is to become future Vasudev. Okay, there is a story that is there in Vrindavan on this. Anyway, I mean, at this point, I would like to take off. There is a story on this. I can forward that. There is a small article also on this, where it is said he got mercy of Radharani, Ashwathama. Okay, I'm stopping here because I also have one more meeting that I have to proceed. Okay, Venuvilas Prabhu had just posted one question. In one purport, Srila Prabhupada said that since admin heads are not devotees, people should become Krishna conscious to improve situation. Okay, fine. That's one of the comments. So fine, Prabhu, if there are any questions, any more questions, maybe tomorrow, we can begin when we begin the question answers. You may just put them over there and we can begin with that. About one question of Ashwathama's punishment that is there in Mahabharata, I will try to get the answer tomorrow. And also there is a story of Ashwathama getting mercy of Radharani. So I don't remember the full story, but there is a story. Yeah, that's there. So I will try to send that article also to the report. Okay, then I wish to stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitaya Gaur Premanande. Balbhadra Kripa, bro?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, did everything go well?
Yes, very nice, Prabhuji.
No issues with audio, video, or anything else?
It is perfect, Prabhuji.
Perfect. Okay. Fine, bro. Then tomorrow I'll just be ready with everything 10 minutes before so that we can start on time.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Anything is there in the daytime, you can call me or message me.
Yes, Prabhuji. I will message you.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.